They came with bulldozers at dawn. No warning, no paperwork, no compensation, just a government official and a demolition crew ready to tear lives apart. Homes were flattened, families scattered, all in the name of development. This is not an isolated case. This is Rwanda's expropriation system at work. Welcome back to the Rwandan Vigilante, the place where silence ends and the truth begins. Today we expose one of the government's most abusive tools: expropriation. How land is taken, laws ignored, and lives destroyed, all under the false promise of progress. Expropriation is the government's legal right to take private land for public use, roads, hospitals, schools, if it pays the owner fairly and ahead of time. That's what the law says. But in Rwanda it has become a weapon. A system that looks lawful on the surface but is rotten at its core. Behind every polished road and concrete high-rise there's a story of a home lost, a livelihood destroyed, and a family betrayed. Let's break it down. The first manipulation happens with valuation. In theory, when land is taken, the government, or whoever wants the land, is supposed to assess its fair market value and compensate the owner accordingly. But in Rwanda, the expropriator is also the valuator. The same authority that wants your land is the one that decides how much it's worth. That's like a thief telling you what your wallet is worth after they've stolen it. Transparency International. Rwanda found that in 11 expropriation cases, properties were auctioned or valued at an average of just 38% of their real market value. In one case, a house worth 60 million francs was declared to be worth just 20 million. The owner had no way to challenge it. This is not an exception, it's a pattern. In Gisenyi, a woman named Vestine lost her house near the main road in Rubavu district. Officials told her the land was needed to expand a drainage system. She was offered 6 million Rwandan francs. A private developer later built luxury apartments on that land. The true value? Estimated over 25 million. Vestine was never consulted. Her appeal? Ignored. And here's the second abuse. Compensation is rarely paid on time, or at all. The law states that payment must be completed within 120 days before expropriation begins. But in reality, people wait months, even years. In Kinyinya, residents were forcibly removed in 2021, but by 2023, over a third had not received full compensation. During that time, they lived in makeshift shelters, borrowed space from relatives, or slept in uncompleted homes. One man, Jean de Dieu, said this: "They took my house in May, my children missed school, we stayed in one room with my brother, I was told the money would come soon. 2 years later I am still waiting. This is not only illegal, it's inhumane." Third, when they do compensate people, they often impose in-kind settlements, pre-constructed houses or apartments that families never asked for. The law gives citizens the right to choose between cash or in-kind compensation, but that choice is rarely honored. Let's look at Kangondo, also known as Banyahe, the most well-known expropriation case in modern Rwanda. Kangondo was a working-class neighborhood near Nyarutarama, one of Kigali's wealthiest areas. Its residents lived in compounds with space to farm, rent rooms, or run small businesses. When the government announced a redevelopment plan, they told residents they'd be relocated to model apartments in Busanza. But the residents said no. They wanted cash. They wanted to rebuild their lives elsewhere on their terms. The government said no. And then, the intimidation began. Over 800 families banded together and filed a lawsuit. They said, "We are not against development, we are against being robbed." Their demand was clear: pay us what our land is worth, let us decide where to live. But the government insisted the Busanza flats were modern housing. They didn't mention that these flats were too small for most families, built far from their jobs, and came with a 5-year delay on property titles, meaning people didn't even legally own the flats they were moved into. One woman put it best: "They took my house and gave me a flat I can't sell, can't rent, and can't pass on to my children." This is not development, it's displacement. And then comes the most brutal part: eviction before payment. Forced evictions are illegal under both Rwandan law and international human rights conventions. Yet they happen repeatedly. People are removed before they receive any money, before appeals are concluded, before legal processes finish. In Bugesera, dozens of families were forcibly evicted in 2022 to make way for a new industrial zone. Their cases were still pending in court, but the bulldozers came anyway. Compensation? Some are still waiting. One father said, "They knocked down our home. My wife was 8 months pregnant. We stayed in a friend's garage for weeks." Imagine being told to leave your house, without knowing when or if you'll be paid. That is the lived reality for thousands of Rwandans today. Even when families try to use the legal system to defend themselves, they find it stacked against them. Legal procedures that are clearly stated in law, like notice periods, public consultations, and appeal rights, are ignored. Some sectors don't even bother to hold community meetings. Others send notices only days before demolition. A 2021 investigation by the National Commission for Human Rights found that in multiple districts, expropriated citizens were not given clear information about their rights. Many were told to sign blank forms. Others were misled into thinking refusal to sign meant jail time. This is not just a lack of transparency, it's coercion. Let's return to Kangondo for a moment. After their lawsuit, residents faced even more pressure. Some reported threats, others were visited at night and told to withdraw from the case. By 2022, many had reluctantly accepted the move to Busanza, not because they agreed, but because they were afraid. Some said, "We knew we couldn't win, so we gave up." That is what impunity looks like. At a national level, the government defends these actions by saying they're part of a bigger plan: Vision 2050, urban beautification, sustainable development. But let's ask the real question: development for who? Is it development when a single mother loses her shop and is given a flat with no business space? Is it development when a farmer is relocated 40 kilometers from his land, with no access to tools or seeds? Is it development when people are moved into housing they didn't ask for, can't afford, and don't own? No, that's not development. That's displacement masked as progress. It's not just happening in Kigali. In Musanze, land was taken for a hotel project. In Huye, homes were razed for a new road that was later redirected. In Karongi, villagers were told to move for a tourism zone, but the zone never materialized. The land now sits fenced and empty. What links all these cases together? A lack of justice. A system that favors government interests and private developers, while the poor are silenced. Rwanda often prides itself on being corruption-free. But when it comes to land, even the government admits there are problems. In 2023, members of parliament raised alarms over irregular land auctions, unfair valuations, and fake expropriation documents. A Thai-Rwanda study showed that corruption in land-related services remains one of the highest in the country, especially at local level. One MP said in parliament, "People are losing land without clear procedures. We need to fix this." But years later, the same problems persist. Let's not forget, Rwanda has signed international treaties that protect the right to adequate housing, protection from forced evictions, and fair compensation. These are not just moral ideals, they are legal obligations, yet they are violated daily. And this silence is intentional. Local media rarely report on expropriation abuses. NGOs are afraid to speak. Victims are afraid to speak. In Rwanda today, even questioning a land project can be seen as sabotage or divisionism. But the silence must end. We must speak for the people whose voices have been buried under concrete and bureaucracy. We must ask, what kind of country are we building if the foundation is injustice? They told us to move out within 7 days. No money, no title deed. I built this home over 20 years. They want to give me a 1-bedroom apartment. They say it's development. But for who? These aren't isolated complaints, these are cries for justice, and they deserve to be heard. Rwanda's expropriation system is not broken. It is working exactly as intended, silencing the poor, enriching the elite, and painting a clean image for outsiders. Development without dignity is not progress, it's betrayal. To the Rwandan government, respect your own laws, pay fairly, pay on time, give people a real choice. To international donors and investors, stop applauding statistics while ignoring human suffering. To Rwandan citizens, know your rights, speak up, unite, because silence only protects the abuser. And to you, the viewer, don't let this story die. Share this video. Let the world see what's really happening behind the master plans and glossy brochures. This was the Rwandan Vigilante, where we speak for those who've been silenced. Subscribe, comment, and keep the truth alive.